Hello everyone and welcome back to Transfer Talk. This is day 2 of doing as close to a daily live stream as possible, so hopefully you like it. If you do, leave a like. Please comment as well. Be interested to know what you guys are saying. Any sort of transfer news or links or players you want to check out, we will take a look. So we've got plenty of things to talk about today. We've got a few players that look like they could be leaving Sunderland. We've also got a few more players who have been linked to Sunderland. Yesterday we touched on quite a few players as well, so we won't go over old ground unless there is a development in those stories. So yeah, let's get into it. And the first place to start, I suppose, is Dennis Cirkin, who is now officially leaving Sunderland. So we know that. I think it's quite sad for Sunderland to have lost Dennis Cirkin. He's a player that obviously we signed in League One. He was a personal favourite of mine. Yes, he had issues in terms of, the injuries that he had at Sunderland weren't great. But I think overall, what a servant he has been for this football club. From when he came in from Tottenham and he slotted in there at left back, he helped us get promoted out of League One. He was pretty much a mainstay for us in the Championship when he was fit. Very, very good fullback. And then when we got in the Premier League, I think he did a pretty solid job whenever he played for Sunderland in the Premier League. And yeah, I think, Jay, you are right here. Injuries stunted his career, and I think it's exactly the same. And I think as well, John, I agree here. Elisa and Cirkin were injury bit free. They'd be in our start 11. I mean, they'd certainly be in the Premier League squad. Also, hello, Jimmy. Nice to see you, my friend. Glad you're enjoying it. And yeah, I just think it's a little bit sad that the Cirkin time at Sunderland is coming to an end, because he could have been Sunderland's left back for a long time to come. I also think there's a spot for him in the Sunderland squad if he was fit, being a backup to Ronaldo. I think he would have done a really good job in that position. And I just think that they don't trust his injury record. And it's a shame. He would have helped us out for homegrown players as well. That would have been a benefit. So, yeah, losing him, I think ultimately is probably the right decision for all parties. I think Cirkin will probably get a very decent move. I suspect he could get a Premier League move this summer, certainly to one of the newly promoted teams, or even if there's a team in the lower half that needs a left back. Or he'll get a top-end Championship move. I mean, I wouldn't even be surprised if Dennis Cirkin moved abroad, to be honest. I think he quite... I feel like he would enjoy playing abroad. I don't know why. I just get that feeling from him. So, be interested to see what he does next. But yeah, it's pretty sad that Dennis Cirkin's leaving. And now we're slowly seeing that promotion squad slowly sort of disintegrating. We've got, Luke O'Nien left. We've got Ballard left. We've got Trey Hume left. And then there's other ones like Isidore, Menda, Lafay and stuff. But the ones that have been there for a while, those numbers are slowly dwindling down. So let's move on. Elisa Menda, who is being linked to West Ham United. Now, Menda, I love Elisa Menda, and I think that it would be silly of something to move him on. He's still so young. I think he's only 21. He's such a good player. I love his dribbling. He's got so much better as time has went on as well. But yeah, Sunderland apparently are willing, according to Football Insider, that is, they are willing to accept Elisa Menda offer as West Ham plan revealed, as all these things are. But Menda clearly unhappy with game time. He has, there's been an article in the Sunderland Echo the other day with James Copley where, he really put out there that he loved the club, but, basically his agent, he would have to guess, or somebody certainly close to Elisa Menda came out and talked about it. So I think that Menda clearly is looking for a way out of Sunderland. He signed a new contract last summer, but he hasn't played a ton of football. I think he scored a couple of goals. He probably got 5, 6, 7 starts, something like that. But I think that there's a spot in the Sunderland squad for Elisa Menda. I think he needs to remember his age, and he could potentially be a big player for us in Europe, or even getting minutes in the Premier League. Look, Sunderland are going to play 50-odd games next season, and he could be there. He could play a lot of football if, Isidore's not 100% fit, or Isidore moves on. If Brobby's not 100% fit, it relies on players. For him, anyway, he'll be looking at it and thinking, can I take a spot if a player gets injured? So I think it'll be disappointing, because I think there really is a good player there. And I think he's shown at times last season when he has played that he's a Premier League level player. So I even think moving to West Ham, I get it in the sense that he'd be going to a top-end Championship team and be able to, play every week there. And then eventually West Ham, you would think, would probably get back in the Premier League and he looked really good. But I don't know what the value would be of Elisa Menda, because he's such a good young player that scored goals in the Championship and has scored goals in the Premier League. I just think, what are we going to accept for him? Is it going to be like 20 million quid? Is that the sort of number? I think anything less than that would be silly, because I think he's possibly going to become a very good player. So that's the issue with Menda. We probably need to make sure we get the fee right. I mean, Jensen's life here. I'd be up for Menda to go on loan to West Ham, not sell him low. Also, NC Network, thank you for the super chat. We appreciate that. Happy retirement, Valentin Roberge. Is he retired today or retired this week? Well done, Valentin Roberge, a legend of the 2013-14 Sunderland team that got to the League Cup final. But yeah, Menda, I can see a lot of people here would be pretty gutted if we lost Menda. I think he's a really, really good player, and he's the sort of player that has thrived in this Sunderland setup. So it would be a real shame if he was to go on. I would like to think that the football club would find a way of keeping him, even if it means loaning him out next season and saying, do you know what, yeah, play a year in the Championship, get some goals behind you, develop as a player, and then come back. But yeah, I would agree with fast fit cars and vans. There we are. He'll be back to move at this time. He will get chances next season, and I would agree with that. I think Elisa Menda definitely will get chances if he stays at Sunderland next season. I think a lot of these fringe players will. If I was looking at it, we'll talk about Raine Mundle because he's been linked with a move away, but those players will have chances to play minutes next season, especially because Sunderland are in Europe. Even if we have a decent run in the Cups as well. I mean, we enter the Carabao Cup at the 3rd round, so we're already further progressed in that competition than we have been in a long time. So there's going to be minutes to be had for these players. And Menda, if he backs himself, plays well, there's no reason why he can't get into this Sunderland team. I actually would like to see him play on the right wing as well. I feel like we missed a trick towards the end of the season, not giving him a chance in that position, especially since we were so short there. So, yeah, that is where I'm at with Menda. Question here from Harvey Football. How many incomings are you expecting, Connor, excluding the possible outgoings of Menda, Isidore, Cirkin, etc.? So I was at the International Fans Day, and Florent Gasolfi said 5 or 6 players is what they wanted. They were really happy with basically the sort of 14, 15 players they have that play a lot of games, but they need to improve that depth. So I would expect it'll be 5 or 6 players, and the breakdown of that would probably be 1 or 2 players, probably 1 player on a free transfer, and we've seen Kondogbia, who potentially is that. Then possibly a couple of players that are going to be younger prospects. We also need to sign domestic-based players as well. So I think it'll probably be 2 players who are domestic-based, so that would be 3 players. Then 2 bona fide starting players to go in there, like proper, the starting right winger, maybe a starting centre back, or left-sided centre back, maybe a starting left back, something like that. So I think there'll be 2 players that'll go in and start, and then I think there'll be maybe 1 or 2 additional ones, if they can strike right in the market and like the look of a player. But yeah, I think it'll probably be, if I was going to put a number on it right now, I think it'd be 6. I think that's what we'd bring in. But obviously that could change if we lost Robin Roofs or Noah Siddiqui or one of our big players. If we lose Menda and Isidore, say, we would definitely have to buy another 2 strikers. So yeah, that's where I am at with that. More outgoings. Raine Mundle has been linked with Toulouse and Strasbourg. Foot Mercato reports that an offer has been made, but it was rejected. But they are expected to come back with another offer. Interestingly, there was no transfer fee in this story. So yeah, it's one of them where it's hard to know now what is the value of Raine Mundle. So when he played for Sunderland in the Championship, when he was fit, he was very, very good. The problem with Raine Mundle is that he's been at Sunderland now for 2.5 years, and getting him on that football pitch, his availability, the best ability is availability, and his availability has not been good. He's constantly picked up injuries. Every time he gets back fit, he ends up getting injured. So I don't know what the value of Raine Mundle is. I think he's got another 2 years to run on his contract, so we aren't in a bad position in terms of that. But I think it's going to be really hard for us to be able to pick up a big fee. The other thing is that he is homegrown, so that would be a benefit to our squad. We already have issues with homegrown players and not having enough of them. So I think Sunderland would be silly to let him go very, very easily, but I also think Sunderland do have a duty of care to the player, and fundamentally we've got Nilson Angulo, we've got Chemston Talby. Is Raine Mundle the number 3 choice on the left wing? And if he is that, do you need a number 3 choice on the left wing? He can't play on the right either. So I feel like Raine Mundle's time at Sunderland probably is coming to an end. But my concern with selling him is that I think there's a good player in there. So if we were to let him go for a cheap fee, say we let him go for 4 million quid somewhere, go for 4 million quid, and then he does, stay fit and have a good run, then we've possibly lost out on a really big asset there. So for me, I would be interested in loaning Mundle out. I think having a season in the Championship would benefit Raine Mundle massively. I mean, Johnny Cool here, Mundle is a sick note, sell, sell, sell. Yeah, but the thing is, though, is selling him now, you're selling him at his lowest value, aren't you? And the club don't want to do that. So I would loan him out. I would give him a season in the Championship, let him play a lot of football, see if he can keep himself fit. And I think that the benefits of doing that, if you sent him out, let's say we loaned him to Stoke City, and next season he plays 40 games, gets 10 goals from the wing, 10 assists, which I think he's capable of doing. Then you come back, you get a player back a year later who you'd be able to sell for much more money. So I think that the risk of doing that is definitely worth the reward. Selling them now for a low fee, I just don't think makes necessarily a ton of sense. So, Raine Mundle linked away. I don't think he's going to be a big part of the Sunderland team next season anyway. But yeah, it's a shame. It's another one of those players that we've had big hopes for in the past who's potentially going to be moving on this summer. Right, let's talk about some incomings, because there is quite a few bits of news and notes that I have seen. Oh, actually, Nazari Rusyn. Apparently, Nazari Rusyn is going to be released by Sunderland this summer to join the Ukrainian League. Don't think that deserves a ton of time, but there we go. Apparently, we are ready to let him go. So, bye-bye, Rusyn. Thanks for the goal against Middlesbrough. Did Nazari Rusyn do anything else other than that goal against Middlesbrough? Which I think was bad goalkeeping from memory. I don't know. But incomings, which is the exciting bit. Harvey Elliott, there was a story in the Sunderland Echo linked with a potential move to Sunderland. Now, he has been linked all over the place. I think Leeds in particular seem to be very interested in him. And I feel like whenever Leeds are linked with a player, there's not too far away a Sunderland link right next to them. And obviously there is history to that since Sunderland signed a lot of players Leeds were linked to last summer. But 21 million quid. I think it's a decent fee for Harvey Elliott, but I don't know where Harvey Elliott fits into the Sunderland team. I think his best position is probably more advanced, so you'd probably be looking at him playing where Lefay likes to play. And I just think with that number 10 position, we have looked at quite a few number 10s over the last couple of days, and with Lefay there, and then I think Chris Rigg next season really needs to have a decent chance of getting some minutes in that number 10, because I think Chris Rigg long term is either a number 10 or a number 8. So I would like to see Chris Rigg be the number 2 person in that position. Therefore, if you were to go out there and sign Harvey Elliott, then I would just worry that it would end up putting Chris Rigg further down the depth chart at Sunderland. Now, Elliott can play in the 8. So you could have him, where Siddiqui and Diarra are. And maybe if we sold Siddiqui, maybe Harvey Elliott would come in. But I just don't think he does a similar enough job. Yeah, I mean, Raine here. Elliott has played a lot on the right for Liverpool. But is that not like a square peg for a round hole? Like for me, Harvey Elliott is not a right winger. Might be maybe an inside forward, but I don't think he is. I don't think you want to sign Harvey Elliott to play right wing. I think you could use him as a right wing. But I don't think he should be signed as a... Kind of like we used Chris Rigg at right wing this season. He can play there. All the fair when we used him at left wing, he can play there, but you don't want to sign him to do that. Christian Norgard, 10 million-ish. Do you think... I mean, he's a good player. And Christian Norgard probably does come in and help us in terms of depth. The only thing I'd say is he's on a wedge at Arsenal. So it'll be a lot of money. He's also played a lot in London, so I don't know. He's been at Brentford and then Arsenal, so does he want to make that move up to the northeast? It might be one of them players that doesn't. But yeah, Harvey Elliott, I don't think this makes sense for Sunderland. And I feel like I say that a lot, but I just don't get the feeling it's the type of player we buy. He's on a very, very good wage. I think the fact that Villa kind of looked at him and just decided pretty quickly that he wasn't going to be for them And I just worry that he's a player that maybe is on the decline. Now, that being said, maybe you can pay a pretty low fee for a guy who's actually a top-level player. For whatever reason, Arne Slot didn't like him and didn't really use him. So, could I see Harvey Elliott at Sunderland? Maybe, but I don't think it's likely where we are right now unless we sell another one of our midfield players, because I just don't think there is going to be massive space for him in the Sunderland team. I think it makes sense for Leeds because you can see where he'd slot into their team, but for us, he'd be coming in as second choice, and I just don't think that he wants to do that, especially with the struggles that he had this past season at Aston Villa. Archie Brown is a player that you guys have been talking about a lot. So I did a little bit of digging, watched some videos and whatnot. I mean, I know of Archie Brown and have for years, mainly because I mentioned this yesterday, but I've had him on Football Manager before, and when I've had players like that, I've kind of tracked their careers. But he is a homegrown player. I think he came through at Derby County's academy, so he would help us with that. He signed for Fenerbahce last summer for £7 million. They apparently value him at about 15 million. So, I mean, it's not a massive amount of money for Sunderland. He's 24 years old, but he's a very attacking fullback. And I think if you were to have a comparison, probably the simplest comparison is like Patrick Van Aanholt when he was at Sunderland. Not great defensively, but is a very, very good attacking fullback. Very, very good on the overlap. He does have really good attacking numbers. And when I look at Archie Brown, I just wonder if he really fits into how Regis Libris wants to play. I think one of the reasons why Dennis Cirkin hasn't played a ton is because maybe he was a little bit too attacking. And I just look at Archie Brown, I just think he is very, very different to Ronaldo and very, very different to the type of profiles that we like in defence. I know Mukiele is a bit of a bombing fullback, but I think a lot of that comes from the fact that we haven't had a right winger, so we've relied on that. I think Sunderland with a full strength team, they aren't going to want two fullbacks that are massively bombing on all the time. And yeah, I look at Archie Brown, I just think I don't believe that he is exactly what we want. I don't think he fits into our style. Now, that being said, we are playing in Europe. We also are going to be a better team. So it's possible that we are looking for more attacking players and players to play a different sort of system what we did this season. Obviously, this season we were much more cautious, which made a lot of sense because we were new to promote team. Maybe next season we are going to be a bit more attacking. And I also think having different profile of players makes sense. You've got Ronaldo, who's a good defensive fullback. So adding in Archie Brown, who's a good attacking fullback, makes sense. It means that you can make that substitution in a game. If you are playing against a lower team in the league who you think you're going to have more of the ball, well, you'll play the more attacking fullback. If you are playing away against Manchester City, maybe you play Ronaldo in there. So it could well be for Sunderland that bringing in an Archie Brown would give us a bit more versatility. Let's have a look. Right, some people talk about Harry Wilson. So I've talked about Harry Wilson before. He's not a guy that I've got on my list today. My position on Harry Wilson is that he is a very good footballer, and Sunderland, I think, should have been looking at Harry Wilson last summer. So I think he was available for 10 million quid last summer, and I thought he would have been perfect for us because he was a player that had been at Fulham, but he was largely a depth option at Fulham. If I'm being brutally honest, that's what he was. He was a depth option at Fulham. And this season he's kicked on, and he's the final year of his contract. He's kicked on. He's had an unbelievable campaign. He's 29 years old, I think, now, so this is going to be a big contract for him. And I've seen that he's been linked with Aston Villa. Seems to be the heaviest one, the heaviest link that they've had. My issue with Harry Wilson, is that I think that we'll look at it and go, we haven't seen enough data long term to suggest that the season that he's just put out is actually who he is. Was he playing for a new contract? If you give him a 5-year deal on 150 grand a week, which is apparently what he wants, that would make him our highest earning player quite considerably. Are you going to get for 5 years that level of productivity? And I don't think you will, especially with wingers. As a general rule, wingers don't pan out particularly well when they hit their early 30s. I mean, look at Mo Salah. He's had a real regression this past season. So I don't think Sunderland want to go out and offer 150 grand a week to a right winger who's 29. I think they would far rather trust their recruitment, far rather trust their scouting network to find a right winger that can do things. Maybe not at the same level of Harry Wilson, but certainly be more affordable and also with a potential resale value. The other thing with the wingers and attacking players generally is if you can buy players that are younger in those positions, you can sell them for more money. That's why Sunderland generally sign older defenders, because the resale value on defenders is generally not as high as forward players, whereas forward players, you can buy a Chemsdean Talby for 20 million and sell him for 50 million quid, because forwards generally sell for more money. So I think we've got to consider that. I just don't think... I think if Harry Wilson was available this summer and hadn't had the season that he'd had, and it kind of plodded along as a maybe 5 goals, 5 assists kind of player, I think, he probably would have made sense for us. But I think he's performed so well this season that I think somebody is going to vastly overpay for him. And I personally wouldn't do it, even though I do really rate him. I reckon Leeds sign Harry Wilson and give him a big, long contract. We won't do that. I could see that happening as well, but I think Villa are the ones that seem to be the closest link. Wayne Ferrier, who I think is an Arsenal fan. I think the best young Premier League player at the moment is Dowman at Arsenal. I mean, it probably is. Didn't he win Best Newcomer or something like that? Defends how the... okay, it's first comment. So SAFC Dan Luke. Menda would classify as homegrown, no. Club grown, no. This would be 4th season at Sunderland, so he has done 3 seasons between 15 and 21. Yeah, there's been a lot of confusion with this. And Ryan's right. It depends how the club handled his registration during his loan to Hibs. But I'd looked this up, and it looks like you were allowed 1 loan in those 3 years. So I think that Menda's 6 month at Hibs won't go against his homegrown status. So I actually think Elisa Menda will be classed as club homegrown. That is my guess. I think that it would be nice if maybe the club could clarify who counts as homegrown and who doesn't. It's weird that there isn't a website that can do this for you to see whether or not a player classes this, because there's been a lot of confusion over Elisa Menda, and that changes what his future is at the club. I think if Elisa Menda is classed as club homegrown, then there's absolutely no way we should be getting rid of him. No way. It would be a stupid decision if he is. If he's not classed as homegrown, then it probably makes the decision much easier. Thane, how you doing, my friend? Hope you are well. Thane has a YouTube channel if you want to check that out as well. He did a video for the last day of the season, so check out his stuff. Grant in real life says Harvey Elliott over Harry Wilson. Right, another player that I've seen very recently linked with Sunderland, literally just as I was coming on before. Michael Parker, a left centre-back. So I will share my screen so you can see this news story, because I don't know if people have seen it. So let's whack this on the screen. So can we all see this? I'll zoom in a little bit. Michael Parker is emerging as one of the summer's defensive names to watch. This is Rudy Galletti, who is a journalist. Michael Parker is one of the most interesting young defenders in the market after an outstanding start to life with Augerite IS. I think they're a Swedish team. The 21-year-old defender who joined the Swedish club in February after his experience at West Bromwich Albion has immediately become a key player, featuring every league game this season and delivering consistent, strong performances. Stand at 194 centimetres, so that's like 6'1", something like that, 6'1", 6'2". Capable of playing as a left centre-back, so left-sided. We like that, probably means he's left-footed. Left-back or wing-back. Parker offers something modern clubs greatly value. Top speed, 36 kilometres an hour. Interest in him has grown rapidly across Europe. Several clubs are monitoring the situation closely, with Sunderland, Newcastle, Brentford, FC Copenhagen, Frankfurt, Sturm Graz, RB Salzburg and Sporting CP, all considering potential moves this summer, and bids between 3 and 5 million euros could arrive soon. So I think that this is an interesting one. This one is a homegrown player. He came through at Shrewsbury and West Brom, so he would count on that list. And it's a bit of a niche. It's a bit of a niche link, let's be honest. Oh, there we are. He's 6'4". 6'4", I think, Richard, not 64. But yeah, 21 years old though. It kind of fits. I mean, I don't know anything about this player. I've got to be brutally honest. I haven't had the time to do the research. I just saw the story sort of pop up before, and thought I would share it because I thought it was relevant to what we're talking about. So tomorrow I will probably do a little bit more looking. Now, what I would say is that this story could be coming from agents. You know, you've got a player here who's just literally moved to Sweden, and then suddenly all the big clubs in Europe are looking at him, and he's put in there some clubs, Sunderland, Newcastle, Brentford from the Premier League, and then a few others from around the world. So yeah, I wonder if it's agent driven, but it does kind of fit what we want in terms of us needing a left-sided centre-back and also needing a left-back. So it would give us flexibility, and we do like that in players. I mean, that's why Hertrauda did so well. That's why we liked Hertrauda so much, because he was versatile. Having versatility is really important. Trey Hume is very versatile as well. So Michael Parker could well be an option for us. And now we have those extra games, it's somebody that if he's going to be backup left-back and then fifth-choice centre-back, it's not necessarily a bad option. But yeah, there we go. That is a player that we have been linked with. We'll do a little bit more research on that. Now, the next player that I have seen us linked with, I'm going to put a video in the comment section if you want to watch it. Milton Delgado, defensive midfielder, currently at Boca Juniors. He has a $20 million release clause, so it's probably about 17 million quid. 20 years old. Similar sort of mould to Enzo Lefebvre. Very short. I think it's already was 165 centimeters, so not big at all, but very technically gifted. And if you watch the video that I put in there, you're seeing a guy that does very similar things to Lefebvre. Really good close control, really good at breaking the lines, and the ball just sticking to him like glue. This has been linked by Inside Football, so I don't know whether or not that source is reputable, but I do think looking at the video that I've seen of him and then reading up some of his scouting profile, it does feel like a player that would be really, really good. Though it says he plays defensive midfield. He's not going to be the same sort of defensive midfielder as Granit Xhaka. He's probably more likely to be in the mould of Noah Siddiqui. But yeah, I think at 20 years old, this feels like a potential go for us. He's obviously not homegrown. It just feels like the thing we're always talking about all the time. But yeah, Milton Delgado, defensive midfielder, a one I think worth watching. We have been linked with him, but he's been linked with a lot of top teams as well around Europe. So I don't know how easy that one is going to be for us. Right, there's a couple of players as well. Hayden Hackney. So Hayden Hackney has been linked with a lot of teams. But there was a story yesterday, I think it was in the Times, that said that Sunderland tried to sign Hayden Hackney in January, and he wasn't interested because basically the Middlesbrough link and not wanting to move to a local rival. So I thought it was just interesting that we looked at him in January and we were active, because that would have been probably a 25 million quid purchase in January. And I just think it's interesting that we were looking at buying a centre midfielder. Now, I actually really like Hayden Hackney. I think he's a very, very good player. I think he will adapt to the Premier League very well. Apparently, he's going to Everton. They seem to be the ones that are likely to stump up the money. He's only got a year left in his contract as well, so he is going to be pretty cheap. But I think he is not interested in signing for Sunderland just because of that Northeast link, which is a shame, because I think he probably would do a good job for us. He'd also be homegrown, which is really, really good. And I think they're talking 15, 20 million, something like that, because of his contract. So that, for me, would have been a decent bit of business. But I get it. And as Thane has said here, he's putting these... It is difficult because, fundamentally, I would play for Newcastle, and if Hayden Hackney feels that strongly about Sunderland, then you can't really, sort of look past it. But I do think it's a good sign for Everton, and I think it would have been a pretty decent signing for us. But yeah, Hayden Hackney, I think we can cross that one off the board. Charlie Cresswell, this is an interesting one, because Fabrizio Romano yesterday reported that Brighton are expected to return and put an offer in for Charlie Cresswell after a €23 million bid was rejected in January. Toulouse now understood to value the defender at more than 23 million. So you're probably talking 30 million euros, something like that. But this is again a player that Sunderland have been heavily linked to in the past. But is Charlie Cresswell a 30 million quid defender? And that is the big question. He's played for the England 21s. He came through at Leeds, so he would be homegrown as well. But I just think that this price is really, really steep. And I think Sunderland generally, I think, would look at this and think, you know what, we trust our scouting team to do better. That being said, though, young player, 23 years old. I mean, bringing him in, if you do think that he's going to be a Premier League level centre back because of his age and the fact that he's English, I think if you were paying 25 to 30 million quid for him, that's not going to be a bad. It's not going to be a bad bit of business, to be honest. And I think that Brighton getting in there, if they can get that one done, I think it is going to be good business for them. because, you know, if he just develops into a decent centre-back, you're going to get your money back. But also, if he doesn't reach those top levels, he gets a move to one of the big boys in the Premier League, you're going to have a defender for probably 10 years that is capable of playing Premier League level. So I think this is a good move for Brighton. I would probably have liked Sunderland to be interested, but I just think the price is maybe going to be too rich for us in terms of what we want. There's another thing I want to talk about, which is the sponsor fair value table. I don't know if anybody saw this yesterday, but Sunderland, the Premier League, sorry, I think it is. No, it's not the Premier League. It's an independent company. I can't remember what the company's called. They do what they think roughly each team's sponsorship deals should be. So at the bottom of the league, you got Hull at 3 million. Newly promoted teams, Ipswich and Coventry 4.5, Leeds at 6, Bournemouth 6, Fulham, Forest, Brentford at 8, and then they've got Sunderland there just in the bottom half at 10 million quid. One's above them, 12 million, Palace, and then you've got Everton and Brighton 15, the Mags 17, and then upwards. But I just thought it was interesting where Sunderland are ranked in that. That basically shows that Sunderland have already jumped, you know, well ahead of Leeds in terms of sponsorships. You know, and they're sitting in comfortably in mid-table, and you think a decent European campaign, that number's only going to go up, and we are going to be pushing towards 20 million quid if we can establish ourselves in there in terms of sponsorships, which, yeah, is pretty good. So I just thought I would mention that. Anything else you guys want to talk about before we call that a day? Let's have a look in the comments. Diallo. I think we're going to have to part the Amad Diallo dream, Tommy. I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. I mean, that being said, I don't think Manchester United necessarily rate him as highly now. He had a pretty bad season, all things told. His data, very, very poor. So maybe he becomes available, but I just think he's going to be so expensive. His wage demands are going to be so high, which is going to make that one a very, very difficult deal to do. Somerville, Ethan Nwaneri, there we go, and say that one. Those are two players, yeah. You know what, we'll look at them tomorrow. We'll put them on the list for tomorrow. I will make a note now so I don't forget. So Nwaneri, Somerville, Sane, is that Leroy Sane? Is he still a thing? And no, God, we'll have a look at them tomorrow. And there was also one at the top of the stream that somebody mentioned. No me, no new, Alexander Stankovic. I actually did look at Stankovic, and apparently Inter Milan are the ones that are going to be signing him because he's got a release clause to them, so they can sign for 20 million quid. So yeah, we'll see what happens with that one. But yes, we could get the Dream Rich Energy sponsorship deal. Yeah, we've not heard anything from him for a while, have we? Rich Energy, man. To be fair, Ahmad has been poor this season, very predictable in most games for what I saw. I just think he needs love, mate. I think he absolutely needs love. Ryan says Dembele will keep Ahmad out of the team. And Johnny Cool says one thing for sure, I think the club will get most things right again. And I agree with that one, mate. I think they will. I've got full trust. So, thanks everyone for watching this. Hopefully you're enjoying these daily streams. We'll be back again tomorrow, same time, 10:30. We try and do 30 to 40 minutes. That's the aim for these. So we've done 33 minutes today. But yeah, thanks everyone for watching, and we'll see you again tomorrow. Like it, the stream, you share it with your friends and all that sort of stuff. Get the word out about doing these transfer streams, because I mean, even if there isn't a ton of transfers to talk about, it's still good to every day talk a little bit of football. We can maybe start talking about other teams' transfer business as well and seeing whether or not we'd like to sign their players. So long term, that's where we're going to go with this. But yeah, we'll be back the rest of the week, same time, 10:30, and we'll see you then. Thanks for watching.